Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is Colleen Coles, and I'm so excited to share this really awesome video with you about answering the question, can you be Christian and still believe in reincarnation? So I'm going to go in deep with that, and I'm so excited to share this as really my first video ever on my new channel. You can love Christ and crystals too. It's so new. I butchered the title. You can love Christ and crystals too. So thanks so much for joining. I'm so excited because this topic of reincarnation is something that for me didn't settle well at first, and I thought it was really random and just not like in my value system. It wasn't real. But since investigating it more, like this whole concept and now seeing pieces of it in my real life, like have really helped me just explore more of who I am and make sense of the world and even my Christianity and my spirit and my spirituality today. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, can you be Christian and still believe in reincarnation? My answer to that question is a yes. It's a big yes. And even though it might be uncomfortable, again, this concept can really help expand your mind in a way that's still safe, but also in accordance with Christianity, which is what I'm going to be getting into later on in this video. So first I want to share kind of my story. If you're feeling on edge and not really really believing that the concept of reincarnation or basically living more than one lifetime is jiving with you or could bring you any benefit at all, I want to let you know I was there too, and it's totally cool to be there, right? Okay, so here's my story. I remember, so just to give you a little background on me, I'm going to be making another video about this of my story, being a Christian and then loving crystals too. So stay tuned to that. But just in a nutshell, I grew up Catholic, but people made jokes that I was like a CE Catholic, or my family was a CE Catholic. What is that? It's where you only go to church Christmas and Easter. And so I was raised Catholic, but more so just in terms of getting Holy Communion and that type of thing. But then in high school, I went to an all-girls Catholic school and really dived deep on my own accord. I had always been interested in spirituality, but then through one retreat I went on, it just dove me in deep to Christianity and specifically Catholicism. So for the next 3 years, I was just studying and learning and praying, devouring this, trying to convert my family who was already Catholic. I was really into it. And it wasn't until later after college, after I had been really active at the Newman Center, which is the Catholic church on campus, social justice coordinator, just the gamut. I decided to give myself permission to explore other faiths because I couldn't let myself deny the fact that I was wondering about what meditation was. I was wondering about, other faiths. And so after I graduated, I gave myself permission to start exploring. And I'll never forget the first time I really jumped into something new. And I was at home for summer break after I graduated college. And I remember going to this church that was right down the street from me. And this was also the first time I experienced confronting the reincarnation as a concept that people actually took seriously. So as part of this, given permission to explore, I went to this church that was just a couple blocks away from my house. And it was this church called the Self-Realization Fellowship. And it was this beautiful building with white tile on the outside and blue, beautiful, crystal blue with gold in it with little shapes like that. And I couldn't tell if it was a mosque or what it was, but I decided to give it a shot with my mom. And so we went and I sat down and I was like, okay, let's check this out. My ego logical mind was very much let's judge if this is worth my time. And so I sat there and I remember thinking the vibe was really great, but then the guy, I don't even know what to call him, the guy who preached was talking about reincarnation. And I remember sitting there just like totally rolling my eyes because I was just like, oh my God, this is such a waste of my time. I came on the wrong Sunday. I don't even believe in this stuff. This is not real. This is not real. And yet he kept telling stories of children remembering certain things and talking about things that other ways they wouldn't have known about. Or, especially Hindus' perspective on reincarnation. And again, I remember just leaving that kind of curious, but also just pissed because I was like, oh, that was such a waste of my Sunday. Like, that's not applicable to me. So that was my first encounter with the concept of reincarnation. Flash forward just a couple months, and I moved across the country to a new state in Virginia, coming from Arizona, because I just was pulled by my heart to go. I had no idea why. But I remember the next moment I kind of encountered reincarnation was during this party I was at with some new friends, and this one friend, he was getting his doctorate at University of Virginia, and which is like a really great college if you've never heard of it. It's like the public Ivy school. It's like a really up there kind of school. And I didn't go there, but anyway, no. So I was at this guy's house, and all of a sudden I saw this magazine on his counter, and it was called The Science of Reincarnation. And by this point, I had again allowed myself to explore new faiths, allowed myself to go deeper into meditation, learning about that. And so I was pretty open-minded, and I couldn't believe how a Ivy level type of college or university had published front cover something about reincarnation. So I was really, really intrigued. So I decided to give it a look-see. And I just was reading so many interesting things that I'm going to be sharing with you in just a sec, because the fact is, guys, like, what I have found is that you can totally be Christian and still believe in reincarnation. And why could that even be important? Well, if you were like me, maybe you always had a curiosity towards looking into it, but felt shunned or like you couldn't do that. Or whatever you may be feeling, I'm all about helping anybody, including myself, continue to open my mind so that I can even see God where before my mind had said he did not live. I'm always trying to just expand my consciousness, expand my point of view, so that where Christ may be in the person who, I never thought he'd be in, I can encounter him there and accept that as more of a holistic approach, right? Like the Good Samaritan, not judging anybody else and saying God does not live in that person or that idea or that concept, but instead inviting it in to see how can I touch God even more. And so that's why I'm talking about this today. Maybe you also have had like this curiosity, but shame, whatever the case may be. I'm just telling you about my experience and the coolness that has come from just learning about this concept. So anyway, I'm going to share now kind of what I have found now over the years, where right now, like, I totally believe in reincarnation and think it's a really powerful concept that has given me so much more peace. So that's what I want to share today. And so I want to share 3 points of kind of what backs reincarnation, even as a Christian. Okay, so here we go. And then I'm going to share some benefits to why even consider if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't have to, but here you are watching this video, so let's have a conversation. Okay, cool. So the first thing that I want to say of like backing reincarnation as a Christian or as an anybody is that it's almost more to the point of it being scientific and not just a belief system. Okay, so something that's helped me is looking at reincarnation more in terms of quantum physics, right? Quantum physics is a newer type of science brought about by Einstein and even a little bit earlier than that. So like within the last century, where we look at energy and the reality that we know in a little bit of different light. It's a little bit more expansive, but also now it's so cool because we have tools to show that, energy and particles and atoms are moving and relating in different ways that we even thought possible. And so with this idea of reincarnation, this article really taught me a lot of how quantum physics relates and correlates with quantum physics. And so as I read that magazine article on the counter of my friend's desk, like, it was so interesting to see that this is the bottom line. Like, quantum physics is allowing us to see and experience and study energy outside of just our physical capabilities. And so with the concept of how quantum physics relates to reincarnation is more like with this basic principle, okay? You cannot create nor destroy energy. And so when a person is kind of animated with life, that's energy, that's vital force energy, okay, as Hindus might call it, vital life force, moving through chi, shakti. All these are different words for calling this energy that we call life, Holy Spirit, the breath of life. And when we die, when our physical body dies, that's an energy, and you can't destroy nor create energy, so that would go somewhere. To take it a step further, what the theory is of these different scientists, Jim Tucker, MD, and Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia, have pointed out their theories on how reincarnation could be a thing. And so they said that basically quantum physics is showing more and more that at the basic particle level, electrons, protons, neutrons, they need to be witnessed before even created. And so with that thought, it's flipping our script on us creating our world outside. So consciousness creating the physical world rather than the other way around. And so to take it another step further, we then could be creating our reality through our consciousness and our physical space as well. And so when we die, that consciousness still is alive. And so with these really interesting evidence pieces of studying children who come back sharing stories that they never would have, been able to know in their little family household, the theory is that that same consciousness goes into a different physical brain and then keeps living. Okay? So basically, reincarnation can just be thought of as quantum physics, okay? Just a type of science. But you might be thinking, even as a Christian, but why wouldn't the energy just keep going, to heaven? Like, why would it come back? And that brings me to my second point, is that we have so much to learn that, and you cannot put limits on God, right? That's St. Bonaventure, a doctor of the Catholic Church, at least, who said that. You cannot put limits on God. And creation is always overflowing. And so if in the magnitude of time, we only were alive for like maybe 100 years, that's just a sliver, where God might be able, in wanting, to create more, and even through us. And furthermore, we might even have more stuff to learn, right? And so with all that being said, that consciousness can still maybe come back into physical realm so that we can keep learning more stuff. Okay, so this is the second point that I wanted to make, is that where'd it go? Point 3. I'm reading my notes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Is that the same person who created that church that I went to with my first experience of reincarnation was this guy, Yogananda. And he founded that church, I later came to know. I saw this book in the bookstore all that time ago, and I was like, is that a woman? And the lady was like, no, that's a man. And he founded this church. I was like, I don't know. But I've been reading this book, and it's amazing. It's amazing. He brought yoga to the Western world. So cool, right? So yoga, by the way, just means union with God, union with the divine. But he talks about in here how basically in a different spiritual perspective, in one that is from the East rather than just the West, is that man, spirit, soul, will continue to come back to the physical plane until he realizes that he is one with God, even within creation. And so that's hard to learn in one go around, right? But if we kept learning and going through even what's called on the karmic wheel, meaning that whatever has been given would be received back. And so that's hard to really get down in one life cycle, right? Like, say somebody murdered somebody, but then he never got caught. Well, that's still karma. That's still, and Jesus alludes to it too. But that might not happen in one lifetime, but the laws of karma still go around. And so that's just a little bit more idea of why we would even have reincarnation, is because it's really hard to learn all the spiritual lessons we have in one lifetime, even as a Christian, right? And how it can be even more fun and like relaxing to think about us not just having this one shot and gone. Yes, maybe we'll have one shot in this lifetime, so like let's make it count and YOLO all the way. But there's also another feeling of like tranquility and relax and not so much pressure, when we can also consider that this isn't the only shot we have. There's also another, makeup test maybe in the future. Or I'll never forget another time I learned about reincarnation was around all at the same time. And I was an elementary teacher, and I remember speaking to this one French teacher that I worked with. And we started to get to know each other, and all of a sudden she told me about past life regressions. And I was like, what are you talking about? But she told me the only reason she had learned French in the first place was because she had had a past life memory of being shot in a French war. And so she went to France, she went to discover and uncover like what could have happened to her. But as she went to this one battlefield, she started to feel pressure in her heart, where then to her, spirit told her that's where the wound entered her. That was where the bullet entered her. And when she shared that to me, she said, all I really wanted to do with even learning French is to write a book on this and to share with people that it's okay, that we don't have to take life so seriously, thinking we're going to get into heaven or hell, when we could also be coming back again to learn and treat ourselves more like children learning to walk, rather than expecting ourselves to be perfect all the time, which gets really exhausting, right? And so that to me just like allows myself to relax more, allows myself to have more compassion and forgiveness, and look at my life, my soul's life, in less of a myopic type of smaller view, but to expand it to more of eternity. Like, whoo, we got time, people. We got time. And so the last thing that I wanted to share was just that as a Christian, you might be still like, I don't know about this. But guys, what's really interesting is that the Christianity did believe in reincarnation and didn't really care about it. In fact, if you read the Bible, there's not even a lot of places that they're specifically speaking against the idea of coming back more than one lifetime. It was only in 385 AD that the great Constantine deemed it heresy to say anything about living more than one lifetime. And as different historians have looked back, they were thinking, this is just one way for the church at that time to control people, so that the timeline was squished more, and, people wouldn't be able to make as many mistakes or deviate from the church's reign at that time. But what's so fascinating to me is that this concept doesn't have to conflict with your Christian faith. It can more just support you in feeling more compassion for yourself, more broad view of God himself and acting in your life, and just a cool new perspective to even consider something different, right? Because if you were like me, you're curious, but it's really hard to find a safe place to kind of integrate your Christianity and still explore other avenues of spirituality. But anyway, so I want to give you two quick resources. If you're curious about this, these are some that I found so interesting. First, it is the article that I actually read, which I will include the link below, from the psychiatrist Jim Tucker, who you'll see like did so much research on young children, and the evidence, guys, is like mind-blowing, of these little kids being like, oh mommy, look, that's me, pointing to 1930s movie star, and they had never seen that picture, or the family wasn't even into Hollywood at all. So really cool accounts, more than 2,500. If you want to take a look-see, I will totally include that magazine. Another really good one, just so you know, is The Autobiography of a Yogi. This is like a spiritual classic, but so good. And he also has written different books I haven't read yet about Jesus and yoga, and so combining more of that, and so much reverence towards Christianity in this book, while also exploring a new avenue of seeing spirit. And finally, the last thing I love is this book. It is so good. It's called The Boy Who Knew Too Much, okay, by Kathy Bird. And this author is a mom, and she's a Christian woman. She was brought up Christian, same, by the way, of that Dr. Jim Tucker. He was brought up Southern Baptist in North Carolina. And this lady, too, was also Christian. But what's so fascinating about this is that this little boy was obsessed with baseball. And so she couldn't deny it anymore. She went into looking at reincarnation, and there's evidence to say that this little guy was a very famous baseball player, but I won't even tell you who, because I want you to read the book if it's really interesting. It's so cool. But just to have this woman go through her own Christian debate and life, like altering opinion on reincarnation, because her Christian friends were like really pissed off that she was even considering it, and like giving her crap about it. But she had, oh my God, past life regression experiences just to see. But anyway, her journey from fear to faith, and having more of an open mind through her experience of this little boy was such a cool story, and really good resource in case you're just curious about this and also want a Christian lady's perspective. So, The Boy Who Knew Too Much by Kathy Bird. So good, by Hay House Publishing Co. So, that's all I have to share today. Stay tuned for another video soon about my own experience of past life regressions, meaning an experience of actually going back into a lifetime, whoa, and having memories or experiencing bigger pieces of those lives again. So my journey has been so crazy cool to actually experience it while coming from such a very doubtful place. And so, this is all just about, who would you be without the judgment? Who would you be without the thought that this isn't real when it could be, So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and leave some comments below on what you thought. Definitely please subscribe to my channel, and I can't wait to talk with you soon. Thanks again.